Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, we're giving coffee the full emotional interview it has somehow earned. I'm Lily, and this is the little place where everyday things get examined like they're secretly running our lives.
And I'm Matthew. Coffee really does run a lot, though. Mornings, moods, schedules, and probably a few apologies that would not have happened without it.
That is such an accurate sentence to start with. Coffee feels small in the hand, but it takes up a huge amount of space in a day. And somehow people build habits, memories, and entire personalities around it.
Exactly. Nobody hands you a mug and says, "Here, this will organize your life." But then you notice it's the first thing you reach for, and suddenly the whole morning has a shape.
And the funny part is that coffee is never just one thing. It's taste, routine, comfort, hope, a timer for your brain, and sometimes a very polite excuse to sit down for 10 minutes and do nothing.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the few socially acceptable ways to pause. You can be like, "I'm just getting coffee." And everyone understands that what you really mean is, "Please let me exist for a second."
Let's start with the before coffee version of a person, because honestly, that deserves a documentary. That version of me is technically awake, but emotionally and mentally still loading.
Right. Like the body is in the room, but the system hasn't finished booting. You try to speak, and it comes out like your brain had to answer a security question first.
Yes, and simple things feel strangely complicated. Someone says good morning, and I need a full internal meeting before I can decide whether my face is ready to participate.
And if anyone asks for an opinion before coffee, that is just cruel. Eggs or toast? I don't know, Mathew. I don't know my own name yet.
Exactly. The first cup doesn't just add energy, it gives your thoughts little handrails. Suddenly, there's structure again, and the day stops feeling like a blurry hallway.
That's a really good way to say it. Coffee doesn't solve everything, but it helps you find the door out of the hallway. Sometimes that's all you need.
And the taste itself matters too. Even when people pretend it's only about caffeine. Some people love it bitter. Some people need sweetness. Some people are really drinking a milk dessert with coffee nearby.
That's true, and I don't judge. Coffee has room for all of it. Black, with cream, iced, hot, phony, diluted, overcomplicated, or just fast and functional in a paper cup.
There's something comforting about the variety. It means coffee can match a mood. Tired morning? Coffee. Rainy afternoon? Coffee. Awkward meeting? Also coffee, possibly as a shield.
Coffee as a shield? You hold the cup, and suddenly you have a reason to look down, breathe, and not answer the question immediately. It's a tiny social lifesaver.
And then there's the smell. Honestly, the smell is doing half the emotional work. The second you open the bag or grinder, the room changes. It feels like a promise of warmth.
The smell is powerful enough to trick your whole body into believing the day can improve. Even before the sip, something inside says, "Okay, maybe we're not doomed."
That's such a comforting thought. It's like coffee gives people permission to begin. Not finish, not excel, just begin. And sometimes beginning is the hardest part.
Definitely. We talk a lot about productivity, but coffee is often about initiation, not achievement. It's the little spark that says, you can start the thing now.
And starting feels huge when you're tired. There's a reason the first cup of the morning is treated almost like a ceremony. It isn't just consumed, it's welcomed.
That ritual matters. The kettle, the machine, the pour, the wait. Even the sound of brewing can feel like the day is slowly becoming readable again.
I love that word, readable. Before coffee, everything feels slightly scrambled. After coffee, you can read the room, the email, the mood, maybe even your own face in the mirror.
And the mug is part of that. Everybody has a favorite mug, and they insist it doesn't matter, but it absolutely matters. The shape, the weight, the handle, it all contributes.
Yes, the mug is a tiny trust relationship. Some mugs feel too heavy, some are too small, some are just right in a way that makes no rational sense at all.
And if your favorite mug goes missing, the morning becomes suspicious. You start asking serious questions about the universe before 8 a.m.
Truly, coffee is one of those rare things that people form attachment to in layers. First, it's the drink, then it's the ritual, then it's the object, then it's the memory.
Memory is a huge part of it. The smell can bring back a kitchen, a season, a person, a conversation you thought was long gone. Coffee doesn't just wake you up. Sometimes it opens old doors.
That can be so gentle. You take a sip and suddenly you remember being at your grandmother's table, or a train station, or a college apartment with terrible chairs and very good mornings.
Or a specific cafe where you felt like your whole life was about to change, even if all you were doing was sitting with a notebook and avoiding your responsibilities.
We don't have to call that avoiding responsibilities. We can call it reflection. Coffee is excellent at making procrastination look philosophical.
That is dangerously true. One cup and suddenly staring out the window feels like a legitimate inner life. Coffee can make stillness look productive.
And I think that's one reason people love cafes. Home coffee is practical, but cafe coffee is atmospheric. It comes with sound, light, movement, and the feeling that you're part of something.
Yes, cafe culture is its own soft little world. You get the low voices, the clinking cups, the laptop people who look busy, and the people who are definitely just reading one paragraph repeatedly.
That is an elite category of human behavior. The cafe says you may sit here and be alone without being isolated. No one asks you to explain yourself, which is honestly rare.
And that's probably why people keep returning. Not because every cafe is perfect, but because the environment gives them a temporary pause from being needed by everything.
That line is so true. Coffee shops can feel like neutral ground for the mind. You're not home, not at work, not fully in transit. You're just suspended for a moment.
Suspended, yes. And when the world feels loud, that suspension can be deeply restoring. Even if the only thing you accomplish is drinking slowly and letting your shoulders drop.
And let's be honest, Sometimes the best cafe visit ends with absolutely no major accomplishment. You had a coffee, you looked outside, and you survived the hour. That counts.
It counts a lot more than people admit. We treat rest like it has to justify itself. But coffee often gives you a socially acceptable way to rest without apologizing for it.
That's a beautiful truth. Even the word coffee break sounds like permission. It tells you that pausing is not a failure. It's part of the rhythm.
And the rhythm matters because life is so quick. Messages, deadlines, traffic, noise, decisions. Coffee is one of the few habits that says, hold on, I'm gonna slow this down a little.
Exactly. It can feel almost protective, like you're wrapping your morning in a soft blanket and saying, "Not yet. Let me wake up in peace."
And then there's the first sip moment. That tiny shift when your eyes stop feeling heavy and your thoughts stop wandering in circles. It's subtle, but everyone notices it.
Yes, it's like your brain gets a better signal. Not instant genius, not magic, just a clearer path from thought to action. That's enough to feel miraculous before noon.
Especially on days when you're under-rested. Coffee doesn't always give you more hours, but it can make the hours you already have feel more usable.
That's such a practical way to put it. It's not about becoming a superhero. It's about becoming someone who can send the email, answer the door, and maybe fold the laundry.
Maybe. Let's not oversell it. Some days, coffee's biggest achievement is helping you stand upright and speak in full sentences.
And honestly, on those days, that is heroic. There's something quietly tender about admitting that your energy is borrowed from a cup for a while.
That tenderness is what people skip past when they joke about being addicted to coffee. Under the joke, there's usually a real relationship with comfort, structure, and survival.
Yes, and we should probably say that carefully. Coffee can be comforting, but not everyone handles it the same way. Some people feel calm, some feel jittery, and some people are basically invited to a small disaster.
True. It's not a universal miracle. It's a personal tool. For some, it's a helper. For others, it's a reminder to switch to tea and sit down before things get dramatic.
Tea people do have a very serene reputation, but coffee people are out here with a different energy, more urgency, more ritual, more willingness to start the day with a conversation.
And more willingness to defend that conversation, apparently. Let's talk about why people get emotionally attached to the routine itself, because it's not just the substance.
Right. It's the sequence. Wake up, fill the kettle, wait for the machine, smell the brew, hold the mug, take the first sip. That chain of actions can feel almost like grounding.
Grounding is exactly it. Repetition can be soothing when life is unpredictable. You know the ritual will be there, even if the rest of the day gets weird.
And there's something powerful about knowing what comes next. In a world full of surprises, coffee is delightfully dependable. It shows up, it smells familiar, and it lets you begin again.
That dependable quality is why people miss it so much when they try to quit. It's not only caffeine withdrawal, it's the disappearance of a familiar anchor.
Yes, and that can feel surprisingly emotional. You tell yourself you're making a mature choice, and then you realize you're grieving the tiny ceremony that framed your morning.
Exactly. Suddenly, your day feels less edited, less contained. The missing cup leaves a space you didn't know was part of the structure.
I've seen people try decaf for that reason, and honestly, that makes sense. Sometimes you don't need the intensity. You just want the ritual, the taste, the moment of sitting still.
That's a good point. Decaf can be a kind compromise. It says you can keep the habit without asking your nervous system to run a sprint.
Exactly. Coffee has room for balance. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. Sometimes 1 cup is enough. Sometimes the point is just to hold something warm and breathe.
And breathe is a good word because coffee breaks can become tiny breathing spaces. Even if you're busy, that one pause can change how the rest of the afternoon lands.
I think we underestimate how much comfort lives in small moments. Not the huge vacations or dramatic reinventions, just a warm drink at the right time in the right light.
Yeah, the kind of comfort you can actually reach for. That matters. Coffee is accessible comfort. It's not perfect, but it's nearby. And nearby comfort is very valuable.
And sometimes the coffee itself isn't even the main event. It's the conversation around it. The friend sitting across from you. The coworker who finally relaxes. The quiet companionship.
Coffee and conversation belong together in a weirdly natural way. Maybe because both are about slowing down enough to actually notice what someone is saying.
That's lovely. The cup creates a little pause, and the pause makes room for honesty. People seem to confess more easily over coffee than over many other drinks.
Probably because coffee says morning even when it's afternoon. And mornings are when people are most willing to admit they're still figuring things out.
That's true. Coffee has an optimistic reputation, even when you're using it to survive a messy season. It offers a kind of gentle hope without making a big speech.
That might be its greatest quality. It doesn't demand transformation. It just offers warmth, a nudge, and a place to sit while you become yourself a little more slowly.
And maybe that's why people keep coming back to it. It's familiar, but it still feels personal. Everyone has their version. Iced, hot, strong, sweet, local, instant, homemade.
Right. Coffee is global, but everyone localizes it into their own life. Your routine becomes yours. Your mug becomes yours. Your little morning becomes yours.
That ownership matters. Even when life is chaotic, there's comfort in one part of the day that feels familiar. A small corner of order you can actually hold.
And if the day falls apart later, at least you had that corner. Sometimes that's enough to keep going, without everything feeling like a complete blur.
I also think coffee is tied to identity in a playful way. People say, "I'm a coffee person," as if that explains a lot, and somehow it does.
It really does. It tells you they like rituals, or mornings, or bold flavors, or at least the idea of being a person who has a routine and a plan.
Even if the plan is loose, even if the plan is basically wake up, survive, sip, and try again. That's still a plan.
It's a realistic plan, which is more than most plans can say. Coffee doesn't promise perfection. It just helps you participate.
Participation is such a good word. Coffee helps you show up. Maybe not perfectly, maybe not cheerfully, but present enough to answer, think, and move.
And on rough mornings, present enough is huge. We should stop pretending every day has to begin with inspiration. Sometimes it begins with caffeine and a long exhale.
Yes, and that exhale matters. A lot of the comfort people associate with coffee comes from the permission to slow the body down, even while the brain is waking up.
That contrast is interesting. The drink can be energizing, but the ritual around it is calming. So coffee becomes both a spark and a pause at the same time.
That duality is probably why it feels so human. We are always needing opposite things at once: energy and rest, motion and stillness, focus and softness.
Exactly. Coffee fits into that contradiction better than almost anything else. It says, I know you're tired, but I also know you need to keep moving.
And somehow that feels encouraging instead of harsh, at least when the dose is right. It's like a gentle nudge instead of a push.
A nudge with a warm cup in your hand. That sounds like a pretty good way to enter the day.
It really does. And maybe that's the answer we keep circling around. Coffee is loved not because it is perfect, but because it is reliably helpful in tiny human ways.
Yes, tiny human ways are the whole point. It helps you wake up, settle in, remember, gather yourself, and sometimes just survive the morning without becoming a villain.
Which is a noble goal. And maybe the best coffee does is create room for us to be a little kinder, a little steadier, and a little more prepared to meet the day.
I like that. Coffee as a kindness to yourself. Not a performance, not a badge, just a quiet habit that says, I'm taking care of this moment.
And there's something beautiful about that. The moment may be small, but the care is real. That's why the smell, the mug, the sip, and the silence all matter.
They do. And maybe the reason we keep talking about coffee is because it gives language to something many people feel but don't always notice: the need for soft beginnings.
Soft beginnings. I love that. Because not every day starts with clarity, and not every person wakes up ready to conquer anything. Sometimes we just need a gentle opening line.
Coffee can be that opening line. It doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to arrive, warm and familiar, and say the day can start now, if you're ready.
And if you're not ready yet, it can wait with you for a minute. That might be the most comforting thing about it.
Yeah, it waits, it warms, and it doesn't ask too much. Honestly, that's a pretty great companion for a complicated morning.
Maybe that's why people are sentimental about it. They're not only remembering the drink, they're remembering the version of themselves that was able to begin.
And that version deserves a little credit. Even if all it did was get up, make the coffee, and keep going. That's a real form of progress.
It absolutely is. So if coffee is part of your life, maybe notice what it really gives you. Not just energy, but ritual, memory, comfort, and a small sense of home.
And if it's not coffee, maybe you have some other ritual that does the same thing. The point is the pause, the care, the moment that helps you be human in the morning.
That feels like a lovely place to land. A cup can be just a cup, sure, but sometimes it's also a signal that you're allowed to start slowly.
And starting slowly, maybe that's the whole lesson. Not everything has to be intense to matter.
Exactly. The quiet things matter too.
The warm things matter too.
The familiar things matter too.
And the things that help you take one honest breath, those matter a lot.
So, wherever you are right now, I hope you find your small ritual today.
And if that ritual comes with coffee, we understand completely.
Thank you for being here with us.
Take care of yourselves.
Well, see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.